Ladies and gentlemen, it is another episode of Mr. Desktop and Mr. Server. I'm Joe Collins. I'm Mr. Desktop, and Jeremy O'Connell is here from CyberWeb Solutions. He is Mr. Server, and today we have something very special to present to you. It is a piece of software that we have been working on for quite some time, and I have been teasing this in videos and on Facebook, and it is finally here. It is called CYA, and it is a special program that creates backups of your Linux system and allows you to restore your system to a former state. If you are a Windows user, you may remember Windows Restore. That did kind of the same function. Well, this is the same thing for Linux. And there are other programs out there that do this, but this one is exceptionally simple and easy to use, easy to automate, and it uses standard POSIX Linux tools that are already installed on just about every Linux distribution on the planet. So without further ado, let me bring in Jeremy O'Connell, and he will tell you more about CYA.
Thank you, Joe. As Joe just mentioned, this is something that we've been discussing amongst ourselves for, probably about a year, I'd say. And it's heated up in the last few months and then been under quite some development and testing. So we have tested this tool thoroughly. And the reason Joe mentioned that a lot of the advantages, we know and are fully aware that there's a lot of tools out there that have some type of backup structure to them. But the requirements that we ultimately wanted was a generic Linux tool that would work across any Linux distribution, as well as really even Unix. So for things like Solaris, BSD-based, maybe even Mac OS, because as Joe just mentioned, it uses open, well-known, well-vetted tools. Also, we want it to be file system agnostic. So this tool will work across any file system. It doesn't matter if you're running one of the extensions 234, UFS, XFS, RizaFS, even ZFS or ButterFS, which those do have snapshotting, but this tool still actually is not a bad thing to deploy in those environments as well. Now, before I get into showing, we're going to actually walk through. I'm going to demonstrate installing the application, and we will use the application to even roll back a system after we've created some snapshots. But some of the advantages of this, it has several different ways you can create snapshots, backups, whatever you want to call them.
Points.
One is points, exactly. Because Joe made the reference, which I use myself. This is like system restore for NIX systems, for Linux and Unix systems, because it doesn't back up your user data. So it's not going to back up your home directory, or that you still need to actually handle that separately. What this is, though, is this is going to back up your system. So if an update goes bad, which I've had happen in Borka's system, or you botch a configuration, or even intruders get into your system and edit files, you may roll your system back to a previous state while still leaving all your user-created data, like your pictures, your word processing documents, like LibreOffice documents, whatever. Those will be left alone, just like in Windows, System Restore would roll the system back, but it would not touch your actual, for example, your Microsoft Word files or your pictures when you went on vacation. This is similar to that. And it does this in a very easy way that, first of all, one method, what I sort of call the standard way, is it will create a snapshot of your system, which you'll see in a minute, put it in the one folder directory. Then it goes to the next directory, which is 2. Then the third time it's run, it goes to 3. Then the fourth time it goes back to 1, fifth time to 2, etc. That is changeable. The default is to keep 3 snapshots. But if you want to keep 4, 5, or 20, you are able to change that. You're also able to create manual files as well, or directories and backup, in addition to what I have chosen as a system directory. I would not suggest, though, using this tool to back up your personal data. You could, but really that's not the point. So it's system data, as well as you can specify specific files.
Well,
and
the
idea, an archiving function.
Well, yeah, the idea behind that is that you would have this running, and you can automate it in two or three different ways. So it could be doing this in the background, and where your points are stored. All of your storage is done in the home directory. So then you would have a backup solution for your home directory. And so what would happen is that every time that you would back up your home directory, you would make a backup of all of the restore data that CYA is picking up. So even if your hard drive completely dried, you would have a way to get back to your system as it was set up. Or if you, it's kind of multi-leveled that way. So if you just borked it up by installing bad software, something went wrong, your updates went bad, something, or God forbid somebody got into your system and put some malware somewhere, then what you can do is you can say, okay, I'm going to roll back to this date. And when you do the restore procedure, it's going to put you back to exactly what that system looked like. So if the hard drive completely dies, then all you got to do is very quickly install your Linux distribution and then update that. And then before you start moving any data in, put your CYA restore. That puts your system back to where it was. It will also put back all of your applications that you have installed. So that system will just go back to the way it was, and then you could just copy in your user data. So that would be like if your hard drive completely failed, all you'd have to do is just put everything back, and then you would be back to where you were, including if I've done videos about how to completely restore your home directory as was when you took the backup. So if you did that, you could conceivably get your system back up and running in an hour from nothing, like a dead hard drive to a new hard drive back up and running, and you wouldn't have to reinstall or change anything.
Yeah, because in reality, you don't even have to install Linux. All you would have to do is boot up off a live environment, partition it the way you wanted it, because it doesn't have to, well, you'd really need to have it similar partition. And then when you have to install Linux, you could actually just copy everything back over as long as you had the home partition.
Yeah, and if you know how to do it, then you would have to be able to chroot in, and then you would just run update grub, and it would rebuild the bootloader, and you're good to go.
Well, not really with the recovery script. You wouldn't even have to chroot anymore.
Yeah, you could do it
still
there.
You could technically have just a blank slash, and as long as you copy your home partition back over with, say, even something like gparted or whatever, you could then just run the CYA recovery script, and then it would actually just dump all your data back over without even having to install Linux, period, because it would basically reinstall it for you.
Yep, and that's what's great about the way we've done this, the way Jeremy has put this together, is the fact that this is flexible. If you understand the system, it's completely scalable. You can just go and restore one file if you want to. But if you need to completely rebuild the system, that option is there as well.
Yeah, and that's something else we wanted. We did not want, I wanted to definitely make sure that, and you'll see this in just a moment, I'm going to get out of this web page here full screen, which I'll go ahead and do. And we wanted it so you could go in and actually see the files without any special viewer, because there's a lot of backup tools that will do compression and all kinds of funky things, but then in order to see the files, you have to go through that tool. And so, no, this tool, you can literally take a terminal, you can take a GUI file manager like Kaha or Kaja or Nautilus or Dolphin or whatever, and you can actually go to that directory and see, here's your point directories, and I'll show you that in just a few moments, and you can just see your files just sitting there and copy them over, CP them, do whatever you want to do, which you don't even have to use CYA to do the restore. I suggest you do it a lot of times, but you don't have to.
Yeah, my biggest complaint with all of the backup software that's out there is that when the developers do that, they always, well, not always, but a lot of the time what they do is they make it so that the only way that you can actually restore from that software is by having that software installed. And it sometimes in certain situations that may be an issue. Maybe you have a backup that's old and maybe that software doesn't exist anymore. I've had clients in the past, for a long, long time, I did freelance computer support for people, and they would have some backup application. And then what would happen is they'd say, well, I have a full backup. I can restore this system. And what we find out is that the backup didn't work for whatever reason. it was in some sort of format that was not directly accessible, and so therefore we couldn't get around it. That's why, especially with, I've done a lot of things on YouTube about doing backups using rsync, grsync, xbt, which is a little thing that I came up with that does this automatically. I like to store backups in an open way, and that's exactly what this does.
Exactly. In fact, rsync is the technology behind the scenes doing the backup, but you don't have to type in all the commands because it does it all for you.
All right, so give us the tour and show us how it works here.
Sure. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to download the software, and you'll get the CYA-master.zip. But that begs the question, where do you get the CYA-master.zip? Okay, so you get that from one of two places. First of all, you can come to www.cyberws.com/bash/CYA. You can see it right up here. And then you just simply scroll down, and there's a download button here from GitHub, which will download the zip. Or you can go to the GitHub page itself, which I've done here. And then you're able to come to GitHub. And then you may, if you come to this method, you may go over to this clone or download button, click on there, and you can download the zip here, or you're able to clone this repo or just take it straight off. But the bottom line is you need to get the files, and I'm going to show you using the zip. So I've already gone ahead and downloaded the files I said, and you'll get this file here, CYA-master.zip. So I'll quickly show two ways to do this, just for learning and reinforcing. So if you're someone who's advanced, this may be a little tedious, but I want to show people. So I'm going to left click once on this. Well, first of all, let me back up. I'm using Ubuntu, Mate, Mate, whatever you want to call it. And this is the Kaja file manager, just so if you're wondering. But it will be similar if you're on Mint or Ubuntu Vanilla, whatever. So I'm going to left click on this file.
Yeah, this is totally, I was just going to say, this is distribution agnostic. And the other thing is that, and there is no compiling necessary here. We're not talking about installing source code. It will not register itself in apt or zipper or yum or any of that stuff. We're not doing that. This is something that you just add to the system and start using. And if you don't want it, delete the files. It's gone. No modifications to the system at all.
That's right. It's a bash script. So it's not, we're not compiling or installing, and you can remove everything. Okay, it works similar to the connect to SSH if you know about that. Okay, so you left click once on this. I'm going to right click, and we're going to go to extract here. And this will extract the files into a CYA-master directory or folder. I double click on that, and you see a bunch of files here. Now, the ones that we're concerned about, or the one we're concerned about at the moment, is the CYA program right here. So I'm going to left click once on that, go to copy. So it's left click once, right click, then left click on copy. Now I'm going to go to, well, you have a few choices here on where to install this. I think most people are going to, at least if you're on a Ubuntu type system or derivative, you're probably going to want to install this in your /home, whatever your username is. In my case, it's developer /bin. That means it'll be executable for you. If you have multiple people on the system and for some reason you want them to run it, then I would suggest putting it in the user usr/local/bin.
Right.
But you have to decide that. So, and for some Linuxes, /homes, whatever your user is /bin, bin, is not configured. So there, you may be using a Linux that isn't. If not, you'll have to decide to either update your path statement or work with that. I leave that up to you.
Okay.
But the bottom line is
the two that the three that I know that are set up that way right out of the box is anything Ubuntu based. So even Linux Mint, Zorin, whatever. OpenSUSE, as soon as you install it, it already has the bin directory in there. Just throw whatever you want in it. And I believe Arch Linux does it as well. If you create a bin directory in your home directory, it automatically adds it to the path statement the next time you log in.
Yep. So I've gone ahead and copied this, but just in case, I'll copy it again. I'm going to go to my developer folder, and then I'm going to click on bin for binary. And then I simply right click and go to paste. And there, we've literally installed it. Now, the only last thing I'll note, just in case this doesn't happen, is that you need to make sure that this program is executable. So go ahead.
Right click.
Okay. Yep. So you're going to left click on it once, right click, go to properties, and then in Kaha or Kaja, the permissions tab, which they all will have something similar. And you can see here the allow executing files a program is checked. If it was unchecked, let me go ahead and repeat this, go to properties. If you happen to go to permissions, you're like, this isn't checked. Just simply put a little check there, click close, done. So you've installed the program. Now I haven't set it up and I'm going to hold off for just a moment because if you want to do this all from the command line, let me show you that real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and move that to trash. So now we have we've downloaded the zip, the CYA-master, and let's go ahead and extract it that way. Now you can type in full paths or relative paths, but I'm going to go ahead and type in CD space and then go into my downloads directory, which you could still technically do that, obviously,
Jeremy,
by typing in downloads. Yeah.
Increase your font size a little bit.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll do that.
All you got to do is click Control Shift.
I'm ahead of you.
Okay.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ls this directory, and you see here we have our CYA-master.zip file. So we need to unzip this. So I'm going to type in, everything's lowercase. I'm going to type in unzip space, and then I like to put the flag -q, which simply means it's quiet. Otherwise, it's going to list everything it's decompressing, and I don't really care to see that. So again, I recommend, at least in most situations, you add in the flag -q, then space, then you need to type in the file name, CYA-M, and then because there's nothing else that matches that, I can go ahead, hit tab, and it will autocomplete and hit enter. And we didn't get any errors or anything. So if I ls this directory again, you'll see here we have our CYA-master directory. So I'll go ahead and clear the screen here. And I'm going to change into this by typing cd space and then CYA-master. And then if I ls this directory, just like before, we see the CYA file. Now we need to copy it, and you can do this a few ways. I mean, again, you can always do full paths, but I'm just going to stay in this directory and go CP for copy space CYA, and then you can type in you'd have to decide where you're going to put it once again. In this case, we're just going to put it in my bin folder, my user. So I can type in home/developer for my developers for me, not for you, but for me. So you'd have to type in whatever your actual username is, then bin, and then I like to put a /. Or if you want, you can also type in that symbol, the little sort of tilde symbol, and then go bin and go ahead and hit enter. So your choice on how you want to handle that. But now we have no errors were thrown. So if I cd to that directory and I go cd space, and once again, I can type in home developer, or I can just type in the shortcut like before and go bin, and I'll ls this, and you see here we have our CYA program. Now, the last thing as I'll show you is just the command line in case you're watching this and you're not familiar, which you should be if you're going to use this program, but just for thoroughness, if for some reason, if I ls this and I type in ls space -al and then space CYA and I hit enter, we can see here we have the X on, which is the execution bit. So this program will execute. And I know this because in this terminal with this color scheme, the file is actually green. But let's say, for example, it wasn't. Let me just change this real quick. Pretend that didn't happen, okay? So let me clear this. And now if I ls this to CYA, I can see here, oh, it's not. The X is not on. So that means this program will not execute, or this file won't execute as a program. And you can see here, again, in this color scheme, it is not green. So all I need to do is I need to change that mode by typing CHMOD space. And you could do either 700 if you just want your user to use it, or you could do 755 if you want others to execute. It's really up to you.
Or +X.
Yeah. And then go ahead.
+X,
you can do +X as well, which would be just, so I can show you what Joe is talking about there. We could just do it that way. And if I ls this again, you'll see here that the flag is on as well, but we don't have the write capability here in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and just chmode this to say 755 so you can see, and we'll ls this one more time. And you can see here now it's pretty much back to how it was. So that's all you have to do. Anything else, Joe? Because I'm about to run the actual installation, but is there anything you'd like to add?
Nope. I think it's just get it in a directory that's going to be in your path statement bin. usr/local/bin, either one, and then this is what comes up next.
Yeah. So I will just make this one last statement, then we'll move on. If you happen to ls your directory and you don't see a bin here from the command line, all you got to do is do make directory bin. That's all you got to do. Or from the folder side, or sorry, the folder from the GUI side, all you have to do is right click here and go create folder bin. It's that simple. So just in case you happen to say, it isn't here, what do I do? Well, just create it. That's all you got to do.
And if you create it, wait a minute. One thing I got to say, because this stumbles people all the time. You have to log out and log in sometimes before the system will catch that folder is there. Because some people will create it, they'll put the script in there, the executable, and then they'll go to a terminal and it doesn't find it, and they'll go, it didn't work. Log out and log in. Then the system will know. It's like, oh, okay.
If that happens. I've seen it both ways. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
But that's a good idea. That's a good idea. When in doubt, relog in or reboot, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to clear this, and I did change to now I'm no longer in the bin directory. I'm just in /home/developer. I just want to show you so we're not actually in that directory. So now I'm going to go ahead and run the CYA program. And the first time you run it, it will install itself. Now, it actually won't recreate any directories or files it needs if you happen to delete them at any time. But we haven't set anything up. In fact, let me show you this. Let me ls home. And well, there's a CYA there. I need to remove it because this was a developer machine. So don't watch this. You don't see this, okay?
It wasn't actually there.
It wasn't there. It wasn't there. Okay. So let me type in password because that's my secure password, right? Okay. No. But so if I ls home, then you'll see here we don't have a CYA directory. In this case, we have custom, developer, lost and found, and made or mate user. Yours will vary, obviously. So CYA always puts everything it does, except for one situation, which I'll mention in a moment, in the /home/CYA directory. So you can always find configuration files and your restore or backup points in /home/CYA. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, clear the screen. So they're going to type in CYA. That's all I'm typing in. I hit enter. Now you can see here that we get the name of the script, which is cover your assets. In this case, version 1.5 at the time of this recording. It's checking for sudo permissions. If you hadn't typed in sudo permissions recently, it will prompt you to enter your sudo password, which is your user password. Then it creates the /home/CYA directory. Let's finish that. Rechecks to make sure. And the reason it does that is just the quickest way, because you might say, well, why does it keep checking that? Because if you, it also creates /home/CYA/points. This is where all your backups, except for archives, will go into this directory. So /home/CYA/points. Now, if you were to delete that points directory and you run CYA, it's going to recreate it. So it will create it, but you'd lose your backups if you had them. Then it creates two files. It creates in the /home/CYA, it creates the /CYA.conf file. It has a configuration file, which you can actually add in variables and change the behavior CYA. And then it creates one more file in the /home/CYA/last_run, and those are uppercases you can see. That's just simply a flag file, just so you know that's what it's doing. Because when you do the standard save, which I'm about to issue here, it goes 1, 2, 3, then it goes back to 1, 2, 3, then it goes back to 1, 2, etc. And it's storing the last time it ran in the last run file. And then you see here it prints out CYA.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was just going to say, I think the next thing we need to do is run CYA help so people can see all the commands, and we'll talk about what they do.
Correct. Okay, so I'm going to clear that. As you saw there, it had CYA. Well, in case you didn't, you saw it said CYA help here, and you get a disclaimer, and it's listing any backups, which we don't have, and you get a disclaimer. If you don't want to see that disclaimer, you are able to turn that off, by the way. So, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to run CYA space help, and we get help here. You can see here it says actions help, and we have here, it's broken into different sections. For backing up, we have save and keep. Save will do standard rotating backups, which is what I just explained. You do CYA space save, which we'll do shortly, and it will put the files into the first directory, or directory number 1. Second time, second directory. Third time, third directory. Then it goes back to, with the fourth time, we'll go back to directory 1, fifth time back to directory the 2. You are able to change that now, but that's how it behaves by default. Keep is for manual backups. Those are never overwritten unless you tell it to. Because see, the standard save will just overwrite. So if files change, it just will overwrite. So if you run, say, every week, then the first week it goes into 1, second week into 2. But when it gets back to the 4th week, it's overwriting anything that changed inside that first directory. But you might not want that. So you're able to create what I call manual backups. So maybe you're right before you do an upgrade, or you're thinking, well, maybe I'll try those open source NVIDIA drivers, but I'll go ahead and make a snapshot just in case it doesn't go well. I could roll back to the proprietary
Which it never does.
Well, yeah, you just never do. So
if you
to restore, you issue the restore command, and this will not work in standard mode. I'll demonstrate that in just a few minutes. Archive is something for more advanced users. This basically will it'll take a snapshot, automatically tar, gzip that backup profile, and then it puts it into /home/CYA/archives. Those will not appear in the list. You have to manually decompress and untar those in order to put them back into the points directory. And this will become clear because we're going to show you this in just a few minutes, how this works.
That's a backup of your backup.
Well, yeah, that's good, for example. And what you can do with archive is you can create archive straight. And by the way, archive, save, and keep work really well with scripting. You can call this from other scripts. You can do it manually. And yes, you can do it with using kind of getting slightly different or out of order, but it really doesn't matter that much. If we go back to the CYA-master directory, you see here I have included systemd files and a wrapper file. So you can actually cron tab this, systemd it, or you can use anacron. And so you can literally have, let's go back here, you can literally have systemd or anacron doing save, keep, and or archive. And you can mix them. It's up to you, your choice. You can have some saves going on and some archives, or some saves and keeps, or save, keep, archive, all of them, or however you want to do it. And archive's good for example, like maybe you create something like your video card. Or your video drivers, and you say, well, I want to create one. But then after a few months, you're like, things are going okay, but just in case, I don't want to delete that. But I don't need those hanging around, taking up a lot of space. You can go ahead and manually archive them, get them out of the way. They're not in the list. They're tarred and gzipped up, and they're off to the side. But if you had to restore, you would have to, at the time of this recording with version 1.5, you'd have to manually untar them, and then they'd appear on your list. What list? We'll show you. Okay, the config file, this is other now. We're going to get into all these. Config file just helps you with the configuration file. Excuse me. You have directories, which I'll go ahead and run that actually. Let's do CYA space directories, because you might be wondering, what are we backing up? You can see here the action is directories and files backing up, and it shows you the directories it's backing up, which at the time of this recording is bin, boot, etc, var, lib, lib32, lib64, opt, root, sbin, snap, and user or USR. And you can see here we have one is being skipped because it doesn't exist. So if, for example, you're on an old 32-bit system, you put this on, you won't have a lib64, so you'd see skipping there. And that's how you can see what directories are included in the standard version. And you are able to specify your own. And then if there's any files, it will list the files that it's going to be backing up. So let me clear this and go back to CYA help. Okay, list any current, say, backups. You'll see me use that in just a few minutes, so I'm not going to show that. Remove is to delete manual backups, which you can use to have the script delete, or I'll show you how you can manually remove it, because all this is stored in the open, like Joe and I said. We're not hiding anything. You don't even have to go through CYA for a lot of this. So, but remove will do it if you want to do it from the actual system. Script is important. Show you that in just a few minutes. Updates, this is how you find updates. We have updates and uses, which shows you some uses for the script. So I'll just go ahead and show updates. This is how you can see updates. That's all it is, just showing you on the web where you can go. If I type in CYA space uses, you see here it's just giving you some ideas that you can use for the script, why you'd want to use it. So go CYA space, or then help, excuse me. Then we have version, software, and credits. Version, we'll check for a new version. This is important because I'm going to go ahead and run CYA space version. And what this does is this goes out to GitHub. It uses curl, so curl is required because it's doing a version check. It goes out to GitHub. That's all it's doing, grabbing basically a text file, a file called version, grabs that, and then checks that number, all it is just a number, against your script, your local installed script, and sees if they're the same. If they are, you get latest version. This is not automated. I didn't want to automatically go pulling from the internet. So from time to time,
that's important. This does not phone home, and there's nothing that's going out anywhere. That one's, all that's doing is just, like you said, going to GitHub and checking to see whether, getting that version file and comparing it. That's it.
That's it. So I would suggest you run this from time to time. I don't know. I mean, we could go 2 months with no updates, and then there could be a month where there's several additions and I don't. But from time to time, I would run that. And by the way, I know this is off the side note. If you are a Connect to SSH user, that is now built into Connect to SSH. There's a new version. So anyway, let's clear that and go back to CYA space help. Then we have software and credits. Software just lists other titles released by us, and then credits is, well, just talks about who has worked on the program. I'll let you run those. You're talking to them, so, well, you're listening to them, I should say.
Yeah, that's just us for now.
Well, we had a few other people actually want to test it, but they didn't want to be in the credits.
Okay. Oh, they didn't want to be in the credits?
I told them, I said, if you want, I'll happily put you, and they just draw like, okay, whatever. So anyway, the offer still extends, but okay. So that's these main, we're going to go over right now, unless Joe, you have something to add or want to say. I mean, really you just issue CYA space help, and you can see these list of commands you can run.
Yeah, but one thing I do want you to show them real quick is show them the help for the config file, because that's really cool.
Okay, yeah, I was going to get into
just show them real quick, because I don't think we're going to be getting into modifying the config file, but just I'd like to go through that so people knew it was there.
Okay, so that is once again CYA space config file, one word. So as you can see here, CYA space config file. And as I said, everything's lowercase unless I specify otherwise. So I'm not going to keep saying case. Hit enter. And now you can see here, you can make changes to the system using the configuration file. The configuration file is cya.conf for config. It is located in the /home/CYA. Everything for this except for one file is located in /home/CYA. So what you're able to do here is you may add in your own backup directories, and you can see how that's done here. You can add in subdirectories to exclude from backup. As it says here, var will be backed up, but maybe you don't want to have var temp or var logs or whatever backed up. So you can actually specify as many as you want. You can have as many backup directories up here. You could have 20. But let me just say this. This is not really, again, let me repeat this. It's not really for backing up your, say, /home, because it's going to put it in home, so don't do that. This is really about backing up other system data. So maybe you install a program, or you set up a custom program and you put it in, say, /custom program/, and it's just in your /root, and you're saying, I want this to be included. That's what that's for. And you may specify just a subdirectory as well. You don't have to have a complete top level directory. Anyway, exclude is the same way as I started mentioning. You can exclude anything, including from backup directories here. So if you said /important, you could say, you know what, I don't need /important/log. So you could put that down here. It's really totally configurable. Then you use the exclude, as you can see. Then you're able to specify backup files, which you're able to specify. They're just straight full pass to a backup, well, a file you want to back up. So again, these would be system files, something for the actual system. I know I keep saying it, but not your own user data. So you can specify multiple files. You could have 30 files, 50 files, 2 files. It's up to you. Then the other two options are you're able to alter the number of rotations. So like I said, 1, 2, 3, then it goes back to 1, 2, 3. I know we'll get to that, so this will become clear. But if for some reason you want to have, look, I would like the system to save 10 rotation, then you can use this right here, this variable max_saves, and you could say equals quote 10 unquote, and then you'd be able to, it would rotate through 10. So that means on the 11th time, it would go back to 1. Your choice. Just so you know, though, on all of this, if you do not, well, hold on, let me finish this and then I'll get into that. Then finally, we have, you can turn the disclaimer off with this flag right here. And if you put that in here, what that means, well, you see it right there, but this right here will turn this, if you're tired of seeing this over and over and over, that disclaimer equals off in quotes. We'll turn this right here off. Those do not matter the order. So I'll just run that one more time. CYA space config file. You may specify these the backup directory, the exclude, the backup files. You can put that in anywhere. They just need to be on their own line. But as I said, order is not important. It's irrelevant how you do the order.
When you install the program and it creates that file, all it creates is an empty file. It's just a placeholder. So if you don't put anything in there, it doesn't exist. If you instead of having a pre-formatted config file, you may only want to put in one option. So instead of having to go through the file and figure out what you need to comment out or where you need to type this, we didn't do that. We just made it so it's an empty file. You stick something in there, you're good to go. It'll just do it. If you want to get rid of that configuration, you go, oh, I don't need that anymore. All you got to do is delete that file. That's it. There's not a you can't really screw it up as far as like, leaving stuff behind or anything. If that file doesn't exist, then the program just goes, it'll just recreate it the next time it runs, and it's just an empty file. That's all it is.
Right. And also, if you mistype one of these, it just won't work. So if something's not working, double check that, say you didn't exclude, you didn't misspell exclude wrong. Maybe you inverted the L and the C. So, or backup files, you forgot the S. But if you mistype something, it'll just ignore it. It's not going to damage anything.
Right.
So let me say this one thing and go ahead.
Yeah, go on. Go on. No, you go on.
Okay, there's one thing I want to be very clear about. If you remove any information from this, if you remove a backup files, well, exclude will change it. But if you remove backup files or a directory, say this custom here, how we have backup underscore files equals, and then we have /custom/mylog. If I were to remove that, you would just delete that entry. So then it would start with /custom/subdir/config. This file right here, my underscore log and custom, will not, let me repeat that, it will not be deleted from your backup directories. It's going to just stay there. Unless you go into the points directories and manually delete them, it's going to remain there. Now, it won't hurt anything, because if you do restore, when you restore, the restore uses the same file, it will not see that custom underscore mylog, so it won't restore that file. Or directory, if you were doing a directory above, if I go up here, if you were doing a directory, say you remove the temp directory would still be in your backups. But new backups, it won't be, a whole new backup. So you have to go manually remove the temp folder. Again, it's not going to hurt anything, and maybe size-wise, you might want it, but it won't restore it. So I just want to be clear, it's not going to delete anything. So just keep that in mind.
Tell them you're busy.
So yeah, well, hopefully someone else here at the company will get that. Okay, so, and it sounds like they did. That's all I have to say about that. I'm about to run. Is there anything you want to say, Joe?
No, that's good to go. It's just, and I think probably about 90% of the people that use this would not even, we've really endeavored to make the default be very useful, very set it and forget it. If you set this up, and then you use the anacron, the cron, or the system D timer to fire this off whenever you want to. It's going to run in the background. You're not even going to know it's there. So the default settings are very useful as they are. If you have a specific reason why you want to change something, then there you have that ability to do it, but it's not mandatory. It's not something like, oh, it would be better if I did this. It's just if you have a specific need, and then you can change it. And just to put that out there.
No, exactly. That's right. I think for 99% of you, or well, 90% of users, you're not going to touch that. So if we were showing you, as I was showing you that, if you're going, I don't know what that does, don't worry about it. Ignore it. But for those few, if you understand, you're going, aha, then good.
Exactly.
It's
simple. I need to do that. Oh, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, it's simple, but you can make it a little bit more complex to fit your individual niche needs if necessary. But if you don't, all you have to do is put CYA in and use it, and that's good for most use cases.
Okay, so let's run this thing.
Now I went ahead, and if you were watching while Joe was talking, you may think, what was he doing? The system, as you saw, directory-wise, was going to back up a whole bunch of directories. I showed it to you, and you can always see by typing in CYA space directories. Now, if you put your own custom directories in there, they will appear in there as being shown, and it too will check for that. But we don't want we're going to show you running this, and we don't want to wait for it to back up this system every time. So what I have done is the file, you don't have to do this. I have just simply put in a file, an edited version of CYA that's only going to back in root and boot. So we don't have to sit and let it back up var and all those USR.
We're using just important to note in the video, we're using a crippled version that doesn't do everything that it ordinarily does for time's sake.
Exactly. The copy you download will. If I type in CYA, for example, well, let me do directories. You'll see here we're only getting now boot and root. So it is simply as Joe said. We're using a crippled version now, just crippled in the sense it's not going to back up as much. Okay. So let me type in CYA space list, and this lists the backups. Now, where did I get that? Again, if you don't know, CYA space help will get you list right here. So again, okay, so we don't have any CYA space list. Again, we have no backups, nothing. There's nothing in here. So let's create a backup. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to simply type in CYA space save. That's literally all I do. CYA space save. And I'm going to hit enter. Now it's asking for sudo, it's checking for sudo permissions and asking for my sudo password because I have not run this in sudo in a while. So I'm going to type in my sudo password. You see here, look, it created a directory /home/CYA/point/1. It backed up boot, it said complete, it backed up root, it then wrote out a date file, and it updated the rotation file. That rotation file is that last _run file. In fact, let's go take a look at that. Let's cd into home/CYA. I'll ls this. You see here we have two files. The conf file we just talked about, CYA.conf, it is blank. I'll cat that just to show you. In there. And if I go ahead and I cat last run, it now says 1. It literally just ran 1. Mm-hmm. And if I go ahead and clear this and I go into the points directory, you'll see here we have our just one directory because that's all we have. And in fact, if I go ahead and go into by cd space 1, I know I'm not showing you ls and I typed in cd space points. Anyway, so I'm going to type in cd space 1 because that's our directory name, literally 1, and hit enter. Now, if I ls this, look, we get files or directories here. And if I go ahead and ls say boot and put ls space boot /, look, there's all our, see, these are all our files. So this is what Joe and I were talking about. You could come here and just copy a single file. If, for example, you're like, oops, I messed up the config for this 4.4 kernel for the 97 generic, you could just copy it right back. I mean, that's how easy it is to get in here. Anything like that on that, Joe?
No, that's straightforward.
So, of course, now when you run it, and for the copy you're going to use, you'll see var and lib, and if you have a lib64, etc., you're going to see a lot more. You also see this date file right here. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that. If I simply cat that CYA date file, you'll see here we get the current date. Now, why do I mention that? Clear. Because now if I type in CYA space list, look, we have our backup is 1. And look, here's the date. That date is simply coming from that date file. Well, up here, that's where it gets it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we ran that. Let's run it again and see what happens. Now I'm going to go ahead and go up a few directories here. I'll go up into points because if I ls this, you'll see we only have 1 in here. So I'm going to go ahead here and type in CYA space save. So again, just same command I ran above, CYA space save, hit enter. Checking for sudo permissions. Oh, look, we have a 2 here. Backed up boot root. Then it wrote out that date file and updated the rotation file. Mm-hmm. So now let me clear this. Well, ls this. Look, we have a 2 directory. And what do you think's in that 2 directory? The exact same thing, except it's a different copy. Potentially. In this case, it's not, because we know it's not. But let's say you ran this a week apart, then there would be some differences in there.
There would be changes.
There would be changes, exactly. And if I issue CYA space list, now look, we have a 1 and a 2, and we have our timestamps. And you can see here that there's a slight difference, about not quite, what, 2.5 minutes roughly?
Yeah.
So let me clear this. Now let me run it one more time, CYA space save, or save, and look, we have a 3 directory, and because we created it, and we have a boot and root, and then we updated the date file and the rotation file. So let me clear this, type in ls. Well, I don't need a space. You see here we have a 3. Now let me go up one more and let's cat that last underscore run. Notice there's a 3 here. We've gone 3. Now remember what I said, the default behavior is once we run it for the 4th time, it goes back to 1. So let's see what happens. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to type in CYA space save. Again, I'm running the same command over and over. I'm going to hit enter after typing in CYA space save. And notice it was really fast, even faster this time because there's really not much to update.
Well, there's an important point here too, is that once it runs through, if you have the default is 3 points, the first 3 times that this runs, it'll take a little while because it's actually going to back up that system. And in the case of like a full Linux system, it can take it anywhere between, depending on how fast your drives are, what else the computer is doing, it can take it anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes to do. But once you get through that and say we're going back to 1, now we're doing Delta updates. So what it does at that point is it checks to see what has actually changed from the last time that first point was run. And then what it's going to do is it's only going to save the changes. So once you have all of your points populated, everything's in there, then it's extremely fast.
That's right. Okay, now I do want to point something out here. Let's go up to this list. Notice here the first was run at 11:17:46. So let me go ahead here and clear this. So keep that in mind. Let me type in CYA space list. Notice now here it is 21:44. So it updated that first directory. In this case, it only updated 2 files because boot and root didn't change, nothing changed. So it updated the date file. And if we look at the if I go ahead and clear this and then I cat that last run, remember it was a 3, now we're back to a 1. So again, that's how it's going to behave unless you go into Mac in that config file and change the Mac saves. That's how easy it is. And of course, yes, you can automate this because who wants to type in CYA space save? That's what cron tab, anacron, and systemd are for. But is there anything else you would like to add for the save? Because we're going to go into the what I call the manual or keep method.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Let's show them how to do a manual and manage it.
Okay, so now in this case, if I go ls points directory, you can see we have 1, 2, 3. That's literally what it's creating. But let's say you want to do a manual backup, you can pick the name. So let me show you that. That is simply going to be CYA space keep. So CYA space keep. I'm going to hit enter. Now we're going to get manual backup. And we have to enter a unique name. If, for example, I try and use the 2, no spaces. As it says right there, enter a unique name, no spaces. If I try and use a directory that already exists, you see here it says failed, name already in use. Now you are able to overwrite that directory by typing in overwrite, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to hit any key. And now I'm going to pick, let's say, for example, we're going to do pre-upgrade because we're about to do an upgrade. And we want to get a pre-upgrade to make sure that something goes radically wrong, we can roll back. So I'm going to type in pre-upgrade, your choice. So you get to choose that. I'm choosing this. That's where it's coming from. I'm going to hit enter. You can see here it's now creating a pre-upgrade directory inside the points. I always print this to the screen. I want this system, and it does. It tells you what it is doing. So I could have just said creating pre-upgrade, but no, I'm telling you, the script is saying, look, I am placing pre-upgrade to remind you in the home/CYA/point. So you know exactly where that information went. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen. Well, one thing I'll point out is yes, it wrote out a date file, but it didn't update the log file because guess what? Or the log rotation, because this has nothing to do with that rotation method. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this. I'm going to ls the points directory, and there we see our pre-upgrade. And just like before, if I want to go into that, I can, and you can see we have our boot root. And of course, your copy will have var and etc and lib and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go list all of them. So that's how easy it is to do it. Now,
how do I manually update my manual update?
Yes, I'll do that in just a second. But before I do that, let's list this, and you can see here by CYA space list. Now we have our pre-upgrade. Now I'm going to show you a bonus. What happens if you said, you know what, I don't pre-upgrade. I didn't mean to do that. I'd just rather have it be upgrade. I'll show you a little secret on doing that. All you got to do is go into the points directory and simply do a rename. So if you issue a sudo move, and I rename this to say upgrade, guess what? Now it says upgrade right there. And if I clear this, I type CYA list, now it says upgrade. So that's how you're able to change a name. If you're like, oops, I typed a 3 in there. I didn't mean to type it. I mistyped it. You can change the name whatever you want. Okay. So now, before I do that, let me show you how, you notice here, if I type in CYA space keep, I have to choose a name. What happens if I don't want to choose a name that way? I just want it to do it. I don't want it to ask me. Well, let's type in you just type in CYA space keep space name. Then you name your backup, whatever you want to call it. No spaces though. Let's say we want to call this one, we'll call it backup. And you can use all uppercase if you want. And then hit enter. Notice here though, it didn't prompt us because again, I typed in CYA space keep space name, and then I name my backup. In this case, I chose all uppercase. So it created a backup. Notice it created the directory. Again, it's telling you what it's doing. Of course, if you're scripting this or something, you're not going to always see this, but if you manually run it, that's how it goes. Now, if ls, well, there's if I do ls on this, you'll see we have backup. So if I do CYA space list, you'll see here's our backup. And same thing. Maybe you think, well, you know what? I really don't want that all uppercase. You could simply rename that by saying, no, I want it all lower. Well, I've typed in sudo, my apologies there. Then you could simply rename this. And now we have renamed this. So if I clear this, so that's sudo space mv, the old name, the new name, make sure you put the slashes just to make sure. And then ls, you can see that you've done that. So if I issue CYA space list, we now have that as all actual lowercase. Okay, so let's say though for this an example you'd like to overwrite. But before we do that, let's say that you're doing monthly. For example, you're doing a monthly rolling. So you do CYA space keep space name, and I'll create one called monthly. So that's CYA space keep space name monthly. So I've created a monthly. And now if I clear this and I type in CYA space list, you see here we have monthly. So say we issued that in October. Now comes November. So, okay, so we're like, all right, good. So I'm going to issue CYA space keep space name. I'm going to type in monthly. So it's CYA space keep space name space monthly and hit enter, right? Uh-oh, wait a minute, it failed. Oh, because the directory exists. Well, how do we then update that? Really simple. All you do is you issue the same command, CYA space keep space name. Then you enter the name of the profile you want to update, and then hit space and type in the flag overwrite. So CYA space keep space name space whatever you choose. In our case, it's monthly because we want to update the monthly space overwrite. And you have to type in overwrite because you're telling the system, and it's a whole word, so it's not an accident. You can't accidentally hit the 1 key or something. You've got to type in overwrite all lowercase. Once I do that and I hit enter, then you're telling the system, look, it is safe to update. You're letting CYA know, yep, go ahead, you're good. Go ahead, update the data. So,
and you're probably thinking, and people are probably going, well, look, man, it's a lot of typing to do that command. But the point of it is that you really need to want to do that. And that's the point, is the fact that you have to, if we just put little flags on things to do that, then guess what? You could easily mistype. You could blow out your saved, like your NVIDIA update thing, and then it's gone. You can't go back to it. So if you really want to overwrite that, yes, you're going to have to go through all that to do it because we're intentionally making it just a little difficult. However, if you want to automate that and you put it in an anacron, a system D timer, or a cron tab, something like that, then that's no brainer at all. You just put that in there in the command and it goes, okay, and it just goes and does it. So it's easy on that level, but if you're doing it manually, yeah, it's a little bit, it's stuff to remember there, but that's the point.
That exactly, because like Joe said, you're going to update information. So if you just we want to make sure that you're not accidentally doing that. And so it's more than just a 1 or a 2. No, you have to be purposely choosing that you want to override that. So it's there, you just have to do it.
Right.
So that's, we've literally done all that. So now we have manual points. I'll show just real quickly remove. So if I do CD space list, here we have, let's say we want to get rid of backup. So all I would do is type in clear. I would type in CYA space remove, hit enter. Going to say, look, okay, enter the name of the profile you want to remove. Now, if you mistype it, let's say I want to remove backup, but you put a 3 there, it dumps you out. The reason being I don't have it right now looping, at least in this version, is because you're about to destroy your data. So I want you to type it in. and really mean it. If you just type in an error, just issue CYA space remove again, type in backup, then it's going to say, warning, this is destructive and cannot be undone. Are you sure? You have to type a Y in. Anything else is considered no. So type in Y. It says here that it checked for sudo permissions, deleted the backup. So if I clear this and type in CYA space list, you may see your backup is gone. Now, right before we do a restore, because I'm sure that's what Joe wants me to get to, let me show you how to manually do this, because I want to show you this script is out in the open. Once you go to /home/CYA/points, if I type in ls, let's say we don't need upgrade anymore. It's good. We're
good.
3 months down the line or whatever. I don't need that anymore. You can issue sudo space rm for remove space dash capital RF for remove recursive, and don't prompt me, just force it, and then type in the profile you want to remove. In this case, we'll blow out upgrade. So that's, again, sudo space rm space dash r capital F, then upgrade. You can see that space with the upgrade. Hit enter, and now if I ls the points directory, it's gone. If I issue CYA space list, it's gone there. So I've shown you both ways, using the script to do it and manually doing it. Because again, you don't even have to use this tool in a lot of cases. Okay, anything else you want to add, Joe, before we cripple the system and actually show a restore?
Well, okay, so the one thing that I wanted to put in there was the fact that when these points are created, it is the exact same file permissions that are in the system directories. So it's the same level of security, because somebody might be saying out there, well, wait a minute, you're throwing this in a home directory. Isn't that going to be a security risk? No, it's exactly the same level of security that you have in the original directory.
Yeah, let me show this.
Yeah.
Let me ls this. You see how we have monthly? I'll go into monthly and notice root. So let me just, I'm my usual user. I'm a developer here. Let me try and sudo into root. Womp womp, permission denied.
Yeah, you can't do it. So these are stored in such a way that it is the same level of security that's originally on the system. So yeah, there's going to be guys out there going, well, wait a minute, aren't you copying the shadow file? Absolutely, we're copying the shadow file. It is being backed up, but it is just as locked down as it is in the original Etsy directory as it would be in /home/CYA/points/1/Etsy. It's going to be exactly the same permissions, and so therefore nothing to worry about there.
And you see here again, the root directory is locked down, just like it is on your. If I ls all on the root, I'd have to sudo that, but it's locked down. I could do that obviously by sudoing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now let's
anyway, I don't want to print all of the whole
something.
thing. So let's restore something. Okay, the restore process. I want to show you something though. In order to restore, so you're doing your backups, you're rolling your backups, you're doing that.
Create the script, yeah.
And now it comes time though, you need to restore. But here's the thing. Before you get into a situation where it's like, uh-oh, I'm in a bad situation. If it's simply you were making changes to your Etsy FS tab file, well, you can go into one of those points profiles and just copy that out before you reboot your system. No big deal. That's not that difficult. But let's say you're in a situation where you have a lot more files to recover from, or you don't know what's been damaged. So you need to go into a live environment. Well, in order to make the restore process easier on you, I have created, here I'll type in CYA space help here. There is something here called script. And what this does is it's an automated Linux mounting script. So if you're on a BSD system or Solaris system or some other kind of NIC system, this doesn't work exactly. I mean, you can look at the script because it's all open and you can make your adjustments, but this is aimed more at Linux systems. So what script is going to do by issuing this command, which I'm going to do, it will actually go and investigate your current system, and it will say, oh, okay, so your root file system is on /dev/SDA1. Oh, your home partition is on dev/SDB1. Now, what this means is it is unique to this system. So if you had 3, 4, 5, say 5 computers, it might not work on all your computers, because depending on how you've partitioned your systems, depending on how many drives you have. So for example, if you had 2 computers that had 2 hard drives, and then you had 3 other computers only had a single hard drive, well, those 2 systems are going to have SDB. Well, they could, depending on what's installed, the way it's installed. If you put, say, your home partition on another drive, this script is going to, again, investigate your system and make it work on this computer. So just be careful. It might not carry over. If you're in a business and you have 20 identical computers with 20 different partition schemes the same, that's fine. It will work on any of those systems.
And you know, that brings up a point, and the point is that if you are maintaining a network of systems, then really what you need to do is make sure that each one of those systems has the same partition scheme for various reasons, because you could get confused doing other things, and then you could go, oh, it's not there on this particular computer. So while we were working on this program, I realized that, and I actually went through all of my systems and repartitioned them so that I could have it where every drive is partitioned the same way. I can use one script on each one of these machines to restore at any time. Just stick it on a USB stick, plug it in, boom, and that makes it easy. So, I mean, I guess for most users, that would seem a little crazy, but the thought occurred to me, it's like, why is all this different? It's just because I never paid attention to it before. So I just repartitioned everything. Makes it a lot easier for stuff like this and for other reasons as well.
Yeah, and size doesn't matter. Even if you had, say, 5 computers and one had a terabyte hard drive, and say you had one with a 750 gig drive, as long as the partitions are the same, have the same, like SDA1 and SDA2, you're fine. They don't have to be SDA1 on one system, could be 80 gigs on another system, it may be 30 gigs, but you need to make sure that's the same, at least layout. So this is not looking at like sectors or something. It's just your partitions. And I'll explain that in just a little bit in just a moment. Let's go ahead and run this. So we're going to run CYA space script. It's just CYA space script. And again, everything's lowercase. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Now it's going to say here, generating recovery script. And as it's checking for sudo permissions, which it would prompt you if necessary. Now it says this script will only mount /home or / home. Now, of course, like /etc/var are going to be mounted. The reason that's important is, let's say you have 3 external hard drives and you mount them to, say, let's just call this easy, /external1 /external2 /external3. It is not necessary. Let me repeat that. It is not necessary to mount those in a recovery state. You're not concerned in a recovery state to restore your user data at this point. You're trying to restore the system. So it's not necessary to go say, oh, well, you know, my external hard drive 1 is dev SDC and 1, and then my external 2 is dev SDB or whatever, or not B, sorry, it'd be D. That's not the point. We need to just mount the system enough, the root / so we get etc var local, all that, and /home, because /home is where CYA is and all the files are, the recovery files, your restore points, unless you've done something funky. So that's the point of this. And again, you need to really look at your systems. If you haven't done what Joe's done and you're a home user and you have 5 computers or you have 3 computers, if your partition schemes are different, then you have some choices. You can do what Joe did, or you would have to create, say, 3 different recovery scripts. I recommend you, well, here, let me clear this so I can show you what it's done. It's done 2 things, and we can explain further. First of all, it's copied CYA. And all that does is it's literally gone out to your system, says, where's CYA, and made a copy, whether that's in /your user /bin let's see, user /local /bin, wherever it is, it's gone out and made a copy. Well, Jeremy, I already have CYA installed. Why would I have to make a copy? Remember, the point of this is often going to be something bad has gone wrong. The system won't load. You decided, hey, I'm going to play with the open source and NVIDIA drivers. And then it goes, uh-oh, now my whole system doesn't load or something. So we cannot depend that CYA is going to be where it is. So just in case, yeah, if it's in /your user, fine. But if you put it, say, in user local bin, what happens if the user directory gets blown out or user local bin gets deleted? Well, now CYA doesn't exist anymore. So we cannot depend that CYA is going to be there. Thus, to make sure and be really safe, it makes a copy of CYA as it is on your system. Now, let me repeat that. It makes a copy of CYA as is on your system. That means right now we have version, if I go ahead and I'll do a list or whatever. You see here we have version 1.5. That means right now this copy is 1.5. If you go upgrade to 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 as they come out on your system, until you run that script command again, this CYA here is going to be of an older version, meaning there could be bug fixes or new features. So Jeremy, how do I update that? Well, really easy. You just run CYA script again, and it just will overwrite anything, including the recovery. So that's why it's doing that. Okay, so that's the CYA program. Literally just a copy of CYA as it is on the system this moment. Now, next is recovery.sh. So that is the recovery. And I'll go ahead and I'll sudo vi into this. That's all I do is a sudo space. You don't really have to look at this. I just want to show this, so I'm not going to really discuss this. All this is doing is it's going to mount, it's going to create the mount point in mnt/CYA, and then it's going to mount your file system. You can see here for this system.
And it's really important to point out here, just so people aren't confused. This is going to run in a live environment, which means that you're going to stick your USB stick in, and you're going to drop your DVD in there, whatever the deal is. However you're going to get to that live environment, you are going to boot the computer off of the live environment. You're going to get to a desktop, and then you're going to plug your drive in that has the CYA script on it. You're going to drag it somewhere into that, put it on the desktop, let's say, open a terminal, navigate to desktop, and then do just run the script. So it would be just, /restore or recovery rather. And it's going to run in that local, it's going to run in a live environment. So that's why all of this stuff, it's like starting from scratch, because as soon as you turn off that live environment, what happens? It goes away. So everything has to be built right up there. That's what this file does, is it goes, okay, grab this, get this. It has to have the program locally to do it. That's what all this leads up to. I just wanted to point that out.
That's correct. So if you have everything on one partition, you would not see this right here. This would be gone. You would just have, say, dev SDA1, and it would just go into that MNT CYA mount point. So this will vary depending on how you've set up your system. In this case, in this system, I have home on a different partition. Then after that is simply going to run the program for you, which will be in the MNT directory it put here. So if you're on, say, BSD or something, you have to change, or Solaris, you have to change your call. Your drive names are different. I know the schemas are different. So that's all this is doing. And as Joe already said, now you don't have to know that. If you're an average home user and you're going, what is that doing? We don't have to worry about that. Don't worry about it. Just copy that.
All right. No, this is new. We're taking a lot of time to explain a lot of the guts of this thing for people who are out there who are going to see this and they're going to go, well, how does it work? So, I mean,
yeah, exactly. So the way this works is, look, if I try and restore, I'm going to issue this right now. I'm going to issue CYA space restore. So CYA space restore. The system won't let you do that, as you see, failed. Restore command doesn't work when your system is booted off the installed OS. Please boot off a live image and try again. So it's like Joe said, because, well, Jeremy, why don't you do that? Well, let's say you're having to restore the kernel and other things that are running. It's not good. If you go back to which we referenced a few times, the Microsoft Windows System Restore, it would not restore while your live Windows was running. You either had to boot in a safe mode,
right,
and then it would do the restore process, or if you did it with a normal Windows boot, it would restore part of it and then say now it had to reboot the whole computer, hold the loading of Windows, then finish out the process to replace key files. And see, we don't know what's wrong. Maybe it could be. Maybe you just need to replace something that's a few libraries and the system would still restart, but we don't know.
It could be one file, or a whole bunch of stuff could be gone. We don't know.
Or changed because someone got in your system, some vulnerability, and changed a bunch of stuff. So we don't know. So you have to reboot off of a live image, whether that's you put in a DVD, you use a USB stick, or you boot off of a network image, sort of like a jump start. Then you would load your vanilla, or your OS, and then you would need to stick in your USB stick. So more than likely, you're probably going to have your copy on a USB stick, and then you plug in another USB stick with what? With this recovery.sh script. Then you would run that, and it would set up your environment and run the CYA. Now,
There
having
is a
said
way.
that, and then we're going to go
I
ahead.
got to say this real quick. There is a way to cheat that, and it's not the most secure way to do it. But if you know for a fact that you've just, I know I borked up my NVIDIA drivers, so that's why this thing won't boot. You know, it's not something malicious. Then what you can do is you can boot up your live environment, and then you can just, open up a file manager, click on the drive that has home on it, go in there, navigate to CYA, copy the recovery script over to their desktop, like I said before, and then you unmount that and then run it, and it'll be just fine. It is not an absolute requirement that you take it from a USB stick, but it would be stupid not to have it on a USB stick, because if for some reason that system really gets borked, I mean, like it blows up a bunch of stuff and you don't know what's going on, then you want to be able to get that system running, and then you would want to deal with your home data. You would want to deal with that kind of stuff and make sure that's there. So you want to make sure that you have it on a USB stick just in case.
Yeah, it's akin to the old making a boot disk for Windows 95 XP. You do that before your XP or 95 OS.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't go, XP doesn't work. Now I need my XP boot disk. Did you make one? Well, no. And
No.
what happens if you say have 5 home computers? Well, you can't call them all recovery.sh, at least in the same directory. So then you have a choice. You could create 5 recoveries for each individual computer and call one, like maybe you have a Dell and you call it Dell SH, or you call it Dell-recovery and HP-recovery, or you name it the user. Maybe one is Dan's computer and Mary's computer, or however you want to handle that.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and let's cripple this system, although I can't really reboot it, but we have a way around that. So what I need to do first is, don't watch this. Okay, I've got to do something secret. Because of this, I'm going to actually put in an edited version of CYA. You would not do this, but I'm going to put in an edited version of CYA so we can issue a, you saw how I typed in restore. It wouldn't allow me to restore it because it detected I'm in the live environment. So I'm going to bring in this copy.
We've made it so that we've made it ignore that we're actually living very dangerously for the recording of this video.
Yeah, so I have disabled that check. So now this version, which you don't worry about that. So you didn't see that. This version will allow us to do something. Okay, so I have my restore points, right? So let's do CYA list. Yep. Okay. So we'll just restore, say, off of well, we'll use it number 2. Let's just say that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to just take out the boot directory. So I'm going to issue sudo space. Now you wouldn't really do this. This is
don't really do this.
Well, yeah. So okay, I'm going to ls my directory and we have boot right here. So let's take out the boot directory because without boot, this system would not load. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to issue sudo and I'm going to, well, I'm not going to, you can watch it. I'm not going to say it because you really shouldn't do that. Okay. Now if I ls this here, we have no boot. Yes, we have a boot backup, but we do not have a boot. So
and we have a mad system.
Yeah, the system will not load. It'll go into a grub emergency rescue mode. And you can see here there were 4 files that are now unlinked because these 4 files here were linked to.
And by the way, those files, that's your kernel. That's the Linux kernel right there. You just, oh, this is bad. Okay, fix it.
So now we have crippled this system. Now I know what it is, so I could CP it over or whatever. But let's say we don't, with permissions, of course. But let's say we don't know what's wrong. So now we need to recover. Okay. So I would run the recovery script, and I've already done that. I wanted to show you that, but I have a screenshot here. So if I go full screen, are you able to see that full screen now, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. So I can't make this any bigger because this is a screenshot, so you'll have to just bear with me. We wanted to show a video of me doing this, but it didn't work in Hangout, so we're just having to do it this way.
Yeah.
So what you would do is I'm using Ubuntu Mate 1604. I booted into a vanilla Ubuntu Mate 1604. Now let me say something. Joe and we were testing. We actually found out that sometimes mixing the major versions didn't always work right. It should, but we kind of found that out. So I think really if you're, say, like on 1604, you should stick with 1604 as the live image you boot off of.
Right. You do not. Yeah. I mean, it's not a good idea. If it's an Ubuntu flavor, let's say that you have Ubuntu like with Unity or the new GNOME or whatever version you're using, and you're running Ubuntu Mate, that's not going to be a problem as long as it's base Ubuntu and it's the same version. but don't try and restore a 1404 machine with a 1710. It's going to get very confused and it's not going to work.
Yeah, in theory, it's all rsync, so it should work. But we notice sometimes, and we were using a rooted environment, which we're no longer using, so you can disregard if you went ahead and read that. But that may be, I don't know. I just think it's safer. Just stick with the major. So same if any other version. Okay, that's all we're going to say on that. So I would have liked to have shown you this running, but I can't. So there's a screenshot. So I booted off my Ubuntu Mate. I booted into Ubuntu Vanilla 1604, and then I ran the sudo. Whoops, I got that out of the way here. Then I ran that sudo command. I can't go up there because the mouse will trip it. But you can see here at the very top, I ran sudo space mnt/recovery.sh. So that may be like your media. You may be /media because you inserted your USB drive and then you ran that. Right. But basically, you ran the recovery script. It did all that stuff behind the scenes. It then ran right here, sudo /mnt. It ran that automatically for us. And then we get this, do you want to restore part? So I don't need this anymore.
That's where we're going to pick up now. That's the point, is that.
So we're going to pick up now.
See that? We're not going to see that.
Right. So I'm going to ls this one last time. The whole root file system you see here, boot is not there. So let me go ahead and clear this. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to issue that command as if I was running it. So I'm going to issue in, let's see here. So let me go here to mnt/CYA, and that's as if now we're in recovery mode. And so I'm going to simply run the restore as well. So I can simply go sudo mnt CYA, which is short for out, CYA, then home /CYA /CYA space restore. I know that's just a lot of CYAs, but it's just making sure that that way we're not going to get any name collisions or anything like that. So I'm simply going to run this command. Oh, did I not restore that? I thought I did that. Wait. Did I issue the restore, Joe, or did I might not have done restore here. Okay. Let's double check that. And this is unfortunately, we really wanted to show you that video, but it just did not work right. So we're having to pull this.
For future reference, just in case you guys ever want to try and do this, Google Hangouts really doesn't like it if you try and play a video on the desktop.
Well, then you're going to see me do it. Yeah, it does not. So you're going to see me actually have to just do it here. I thought I had done it. Yeah.
You're showing all this stuff, man. You're giving away the secret sauce.
I know. I have crippled it. Well, all the code's available anyway, so that is odd. Oh, I know why.
You're running it from inside the mount. That's why.
Hold on. I need to take this and put this in the
somewhere else.
Sorry, yeah. you do not have to do this. I know what I need to do. It's because I'm running it off of the cancel this. I know what I'm doing. I need to copy it into the okay. You don't normally have to worry about this, but if you're wondering what's going on, it's because I am running it off of when I type script, it copied it off of that. So what I need to do is really quickly do it. Just don't worry about this part of it. Okay, so I'm gonna have to manually do it this way. I know exactly what's wrong, folks. I'm not going to explain all this because if you want to do this for yourself, you're able to. But really, for most home users, you're not going to.
Jeremy, this is a new problem. Okay, we don't need to know. Fix it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And yes, we really do talk to each other this way when we're working on this stuff.
Oh yeah. We show each other no mercy. No mercy. So okay. So now it should work. Okay. So forget that. Let me clear this off. Okay. Because see, the problem, folks, was it was using a clean version when I created script and we're running up. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever.
I know. So normally just disregard all that. Okay. So we're now going to act like we're in the MNT, like we're in recovery mode. So like I said, Joe and I really tried. We never knew that was not possible. Okay. So let me show you one last time again, because we've so broken boot. Okay. So now I can run this cleanly. So I'm going to type in sudo mnt CYA space. But again, the recovery script does this all for you. So you don't have to type in that long path to the full file there. And we're going to type in restore. Okay. So it says here, warning, You are about to begin the restore process, which will alter the system's operating files because you are about to change your system. And it says it's best practice to boot off a live disk, but it no longer works if you don't, unless you do this little tweak. So, do you want to continue? We're going to answer why. Anything else is considered in for no, and it dumps you back out. And then you'd have to just simply rerun that command up there, this sudo, which it does print out in the recovery script for you. So first we have to do is, after answer why, we first have to pick the name of the backup to restore. So I'm going to press any key, and it shows us our available commands, or our available backup profile, excuse me. So let's pick 2. So I'm going to simply type in 2. Could have picked monthly, 1, if you had backup, whatever. If I type in something that doesn't exist,
yeah.
If I type in, say, like 11, it doesn't exist. It just says, nope, invalid, pick another name or another backup profile. And you see here it's timestamp, so you can try and figure that out, hopefully, from the time. If you're, say, doing it every week, you'll see, oh, the weekly timestamps. Ours are all similar, so it doesn't, for demonstrations, it's not as clear sometimes. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm going to type in 2 and hit enter. Then it's going to say, there's 3 questions it's going to ask you that are very important. The first is, do you want to take a backup of the current state before restoring? So it defaults to N. What this means is before it changes anything, it'll actually do another backup. Now, I'm going to do that because it's short. So I'm going to answer Y because I want you to see what it looks like. And hit enter. Anything other than Y is considered no. Okay, next is, should files that do not exist in backup be deleted from destination? This will remove unauthorized files. This basically just turns the delete flag on. Now, it will not delete, say, if, let's say, a hacker got in there, or attacker, and they say put in, say, /secret/path. It's not going to delete that, but it will at least roll back any startup files. So if they have,
it'll fix the system.
Files, yeah, exactly. We'll go ahead and answer yes. Now it's going to ask, do you want to be asked whether to restore each directory individually? And again, it defaults to N. This means if you answer yes, it will ask you, do you want to restore bin? You answer yes or no. Do you want to restore boot? Yes or no. Do you want to restore var? But well, I'm out of order. It doesn't alphabetical, but and including your custom directories, although those will be at the bottom. So literally go down through everyone. Do you want to restore lib directory? Yes or no. For sake of demonstration,
the safest option there, if you don't know, don't choose that.
Yes.
If you know for a fact that you screwed up a bunch of stuff in the var directory, then yes, you want to go back and do that. But if you don't, then let the thing do it itself and just double check everything.
Right. So in general, you'd probably answer N, but I'll just show you that functionality by answering Y. Because we're not going to run this multiple times. We're just going to run it once and then let you. Okay, so you hit enter. Now it does this. File changes are about to occur. Verify and confirm. It says restoring backup, and it says the name, profile, where the 2 come from, because that's what we chose right here. So if I had typed in monthly, then we would see monthly here. It's saying backup current state is answer yes, because obviously we typed in a Y. Delete files not found in backup is yes, because we answered Y, otherwise it'd be no. And ask to restore directories individually, yes, because we answered Y. Then it's saying data changes imminent. To start process, type the word restore in all lowercase, otherwise hit any key to abort. So if you do not type that word restore, because this is the final chance you have, once you do that, you're turning this thing loose, and it's going to start changing your files. Now, granted, if you have this confirm or to ask for each directory, you can actually get one more chance. But if you answered N, that's it. This is the final chance. Once I have typed in restore now and hit enter, that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can see here it says beginning restore. It's then removing the log if it existed. And I'll explain that in a minute, so don't worry. Creating current state name. So you can see here, and /mnt/CYA/home/CYA. Now, when we reboot the system, which we're not really, but we're going to mimic like we rebooted the system, you'll see here that it will just be /home/CYA/points, and it picked a name here, restore, and this is just a Unix timestamp if you're wondering where that came from. Okay, so it's saying backing up current state, backed up root. But wait a minute, I thought we had root and boot. Well, boot is missing, so it checked and said I should be backing up.
There is no boot, yeah.
There is no boot, so it's unable to back that up, which will happen if some files have been damaged. It wrote out the date file as usual, so that way when we get a list, we'll see when it was time. We'll get that timestamp, and then it says current state backup complete. It says delete files not in backup is on, so it's letting you know you have turned that on because we answered it up here. So now it's asking me, because we answered yes here, if we'd answered no, it just would have done it. But because we answered yes here, it's saying, do we want to restore boot? Well, since we deleted boot, oh yes, we want to delete boot. I mean, we want to restore boot, excuse me. I probably should put a capital N because anything other than Y is considered N. So I'm going to answer Y. So now here you can see here it's restoring boot. And it's just rsyncing complete. Now it's asking, do we want to do root? Now, since we didn't do anything and we know we didn't change anything, I'm just going to answer N. And then finally here it says, so it says skipping root. Now, normally you're going to see var and lib32 if you have it, and lib64, etc.
Right.
If it's in the backup. And any custom directories. If you had, say, /custom app / it would ask you, do you want to restore /custom app / Anyway, so, and then the final thing it did is it skipped root because we said no. And then it said here /CYA log has been written. And then it just says, now restart your machine to check your environment. So now you reboot your machine. We're simulating that. I had a great video, but whatever, so it didn't work. So I can just simply go back here because we've done that. And now if I clear this and I ls our root directory, look, boot is back. And notice now the files, like Joe said, kernel stuff is no longer,
that was, just seeing that up on the screen here was hurting my brain. I was like, no, because you know for a fact that system is just, no, it ain't going to boot. It ain't going to happen. No boot, none.
Yeah, it's going to go into emergency grub mode. So there we go. So boot is now been restored. Everything's fine. Had we restarted the system, it would now correctly load. And again, up here, though, you're going to normally, when you get to the situation, you're probably going to want to, well, normally you are going to want to answer end because you want to just go through and check everything. And again, it'll only overwrite what changed. So if you say have 95,000 files out of your system didn't change, it's just going to skip those and just go, oh, look, these 118 changed or 52 changed or whatever. It will change that. So if you know what's wrong, we knew boot was what's wrong because I intentionally took out boot. So I knew I could restore it.
And you know, there's something I want to say about this as we're going through this. There's probably somebody watching out there going, man, you guys are just like being so super thorough. And why are you making this where you're constantly confirming and stuff like that? If you're using this on your Linux computer at home and you're just playing around with it, then yeah, you can do whatever you want to with it. But this is going to end up on servers that are going to contain millions of dollars worth of data. And it's just is. And so what's the deal is even though we're all pretty intelligent, if you've made it this far in this video, it's just reminding you, we've all done stupid stuff. We have all deleted our home directory at least once. We've borked up a system in some way. And this is to just let people know as it's rolling along. Okay, look, this is what this is going to do. Do you really want to do this? And just so that nobody makes any mistakes, because when you're dealing with servers that have millions of dollars of data on them, downtime is expensive. And nobody wants that sitting on their head. And this is a tool that's supposed to help you to keep things up and running and keep them going in an emergency situation. And when you're in an emergency situation, you're panicking anyway. You've got your boss and people on the phone going, is it up yet? I mean, come on, hurry up. What's the deal? Why did it crash in the first place? What did you screw up? So this is to kind of help. So yeah, you got to understand the use case. If you're just doing this at home, it might seem like overkill. If you're standing in a data center somewhere trying to restore some server that's got the entire database for a corporation, you really need all the help you can get, something reminding you what's going on. So that's what that's all about. That's why it's written this way.
Yeah, so that's basically it. I think the only two things I'll show real quick, unless archive, you can look that up.
Yeah,
There's videos.
Okay, what did you want to show?
Well, okay, there's two things. Well, I just wanted to show scheduling it because everyone's going to want to know how do I they're not going to want to manually type all this stuff in. So let me just show this too. CYA list. You'll see here that CYA space list, we now have our restore point here. So we can go back into that if we go into /home, which I'm already in /CYA. If I go into my points, the points directory, ls this, we see we have restore. And if I cd into that, here's the files as they existed. You notice there's no boot here. But
yeah, at this point you want to dump this. You don't even want it hanging around.
Well, it depends. If there's damage for like servers, you might want the forensics of it. Or
exactly, you want to see what's wrong. Yeah,
I would say also in a home situation, you might want to wait like at least a day or two and make sure that something doesn't go, oh my gosh, I really needed some file and for some reason it's not there. Well, so you might even at least want to hang on to it for a day or a week and just double check. It's up to you. You could delete this right away or not even take it. But the whole point of this is just in case. If you don't want that, then up here, if I scroll back up here, you would just answer in to taking a backup of the current state. I honestly think that it's always a good idea to make a backup copy of the current state just in case, at least keep it for a few days, because you never 100% know. And you might find out, like I said, there's some critical file that's missing and you're like, oh no, and it's just gone. Now, let's say I'll show it archiving that. That's actually a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Let's say that, well, I typed in warp. What am I doing? Going into Star Trek mode. Okay. Anyway, so let's say that, okay, I'll clear this and type in CYA list again, if I could do this correct. CYA space list. And let's say, okay, you know what? This is a good thing to archive. Let's say, well, you know what? This has been around for, say, 3 days. I'm good. I feel comfortable. System seems to be running okay. I've rebooted it a few times. Everything's working okay. But you know what? I'm just not ready to let that go. I just don't want to quite remove that yet because...
Hey, hang on a second. I got somebody at the door. I'm going to mute my mic. You keep talking.
Okay. So I'm going to clear this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ls this directory. And notice here, there's no archives directory here. Now I'm lsing /home/CYA. What I'm going to do is I'm going to simply type in CYA space archive. Where did I get that? Well, if we go to CYA space help, you see here we have archive. I'm going to type in CYA space archive and hit enter. Now it's at, okay, archive mode. It's saying enter a backup name to archive. Now I'm just going to copy and paste this because I don't want to have to type that all in, and you can't autocomplete there. So I've now entered in my backup profile to archive. I hit enter, and it's saying here, restore 15, blah, I'm not going to read it all, is about to be archived. This will tar and gzip the files, move the file to oh, we're still in MNT mode. Hold on, folks. I'm sorry. Let me restore this to be correct. I know.
I'm back, by the way, but we got a boogie.
Yeah, we probably need another just like maybe 5 to 10 minutes if I don't get interrupted. Okay, let me restore standard. I'm sorry, folks, because that little trick threw me off for a loop there. Okay, so now let's type in CYA space archive again. Okay, so now I'm going to enter the archive I'm going to enter in the backup to archive. In this case, I'm going to copy and paste because I want to type that all in. Like I said, you can't autocomplete on that. And it's saying here, okay, restore 15, whatever. This will, like I said, tar and gzip the files, move file to /home/arch or CYA/archives, and it'll create it. Remove this backup profile from the list, so it'll no longer appear in this list, and require manual untarring and gzipping before using the restore command on the profile. Do you want to continue? Y or anything else is in, hit Y. You can see here, it checked. It said, okay, archiving. It's created it said archiving restore -15 in progress. It said creating the directory because it didn't exist. And then it actually went ahead and tarred that up and gzipped it. And you see here, it put it in /home/CYA/archives and then restore and then this long file. So if I clear this and ls the directory for /home/CYA, now we have an archives directory. And if I ls that archives directory, there's our file. So in order, if I wanted to bring that back, I'd have to issue a command to untar it, which I could do with /tar x. Well, I'm not going to explain. I'll just type this in because this is for more advanced people. So then I'm not in the archives directory. So then I would have to archive, let's see this, and then issue the file because it's an archive. If I do -C, then I can actually tell it straight where I want it to go in the points directory. And, oh, I forgot to issue sudo, folks. Some of you are probably sitting there going, oh, you didn't issue sudo. Yeah, and so I was just explaining the command and failed to issue sudo. So now I issued that command. And if I ls the points directory again, we'll see that it has been restored. And if I type in list, it is back. So that's how easy it is. And you are able, the only other final thing I'll say on this, you can create archives directly by CYA space keep space name. You may pick the name, we'll say back. Well, we'll just do back up arc for archive, and then you simply add the archive flag on there instead of overwrite. So CYA space keep space name, the backup name you want to choose, and then archive, and that goes straight to You can see here, archiving backup arc, and it's going to write all that out. It's going to tar it up and gzip it and all that good stuff. And then you're going to be able to have that in your archives directory. And for some reason, all of a sudden, there you go. Then it tells you it's there. So if I ls the archives directory, you'll see here, we now have our backup arc. So that's all there. And then I know, Joe, they're definitely going to want to know, everyone's going to want to know how you schedule this. So is there anything else? Because then I can do this in just a few minutes here.
No, go ahead and show them the scheduling.
Okay, because this is going to be important because I know you're all going to want to know, great, I want to run, say, CYA space save, or I want to run, say, CYA space keep space monthly, and then overwrite. But I don't want to have to keep doing it. Who wants to remember to do this every whatever you decide every week or whatever? So how do you not have to manually do this? How do you tell the system to do this? Well, you have some options. You can do cron, anacron, or systemd. I'm going to show you systemd. And if you want a cron, all you got to do is cron tab this right here by typing in whatever command, say save. If you're saying, hey, Jeremy, I want to know how you do this in greater detail for cron, if you come to the github.com/CYA or /cleverwise/CYA, excuse me, that's github.com/cleverwise/CYA, and you scroll down here, it'll also be in the README file you get. There's a whole bunch of information here on customization, on scheduling, and you can see here, for example, a cron tab. But let me show, so that's going to be more for servers. And this cron tab here is set up to cron tab. It will run this command, the save command. So you'd have to change this right here. If you, well, actually, I have /developer here. I really should change that too. I'll get that updated before you guys get it. I'll change this file to say user because you need to change this to your full path to your CYA. And then you need to change save if you want keep or whatever command. This will run it every Monday at 2:05 in the morning local time. But for most people now, if they're on, say, 1604, you're going to want to use a systemd. And I can hear some people going, oh, I don't like systemd. Well, okay.
Well,
so
that's why I wrote the anacron wrapper, and it's included.
Exactly. So if we go back to CYA-master, you'll see here that we have a wrapper file. And this is just in case, here I'll display this. This is just in case your system does not want to run, because some systems don't want to call a bash script directly. So what happens here is you would type in your path to wherever you installed CYA, say /home/user or /usr local or user local bin or wherever you've to CYA, and then whatever command you want. This has got save in it, but it might be keep space name space monthly space overwrite, whatever you want to. So you can see that. Say you were doing a monthly, you could type it this way. Then you'd save this, and then an anacron or systemd or cron tab or whatever, you would call this script, and then this script would call the actual command. Now, if you're going, what? Then you probably aren't going to have to deal with it, so don't worry about it. Let me just show the systemd because I think this is something that a lot of people are going to like. So in CYA-master, you'll see there's systemd right here. There are 2 unit files. Now, if you get confused, and if you go back here, there's actually a whole systemd under scheduling on GitHub. Also, if you go back to the site I gave you, you can see here there's a scheduling at the bottom as well, which just takes you to this GitHub page. And it tells you, but I'll show you in a video, but this actually walks you through how you do it. So the first thing we need to do here is we need to edit this service file. So using your preferred edit way, we could actually, I'll show you actually edit this by clicking on it and say opening with Pluma or whatever, gedit, whatever you want to use. But I'll show this from the command line. So let me go ahead and go back to my downloads folder by CDing into that. And I know it's bmaster dash, should say no space there. And if I ls this, we'll see here, we see our systemd directory. So if I cd into systemd and then ls that, we have our files right here. So we're first going to edit this. So let me clear this. And I'm going to vi cya.service file. And then we need to change this start exec, because see, we have our description run CYA. It's going to run into the root user, and the group is going to be root as well. That way, it won't keep asking and prompting for a name. Otherwise, you're going to have to change and make sure your sudo user you're running it under doesn't keep prompting for a name, or the script will fail. So the type is one shot. It'll just run it, exit out. And now we need to type in the path to the CYA command. So I'm going to enter in my case, it's developer. If you had this in user local, then you need to change that to whatever path. Decide your command. We'll just use save, but you could put in keep here and name and whatever, say monthly or whatever you want to call it, overwrite. We'll just call it save. So I'm going to write this out, and that's it. So now if I cat this file, by typing in cat space CYA service or CYA dot service, excuse me, you'll see here that I have updated this file. The only other thing we have to do before we actually install this is if I go ahead here and let's take a look at the I use VI as you saw. If you want to use Nano or Emacs or whatever you want to use, I'm going to type in CYA.timer, and you'll see here that this is going to run it every week. So you see here on calendar weekly, persistence true. What that means is if it misses it, see that's one disadvantage about cron. If it misses, the system's off. So it's generally used for servers. It won't make it up. But systemd and Anacron should make it up. But systemd will only do that if you have the persistent equals true on. So this is weekly. You'd install it as weekly. Now I'm going to change something here because I want to show it running real quick. I'm going to change this. You would not normally do this because I want it to run every minute, but you would just use the weekly. Or if you wanted to, you could instead of weekly, sorry, still in insert mode, you could type in, say, well, here I could remove this. If you say wanted to run daily, you could put in daily, or you could put in whatever you want. You could put in monthly, or you could use some of the other actual time-based commands, like I'm going to use here, because well, they're all time, but I'm going to use this star, which means it will run every minute. So you could have it run every 30 minutes if you really wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could. Okay, so normally you'd leave weekly in there, like I said, but that's how it's going to be. So now all we have to do, and again, if you get confused, just you can refer back to this GitHub page. It tells you, you edit this, got weekly here. Now we need to copy these files into etc systemd system. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that directory. And I am going to, well, actually, I can just do it from here. So I'm going to see, you have different ways you can do this. We'll do it from this right here. So I'm going to use sudo cp, well, space cp, CYA, then I'm going to issue, say, dot, and then the asterisk. So it will get both timer and service. And then we're going to put this in the /etc or etc/systemd/system. I'm going to go ahead and copy them there. And they have been copied. So now let's go ahead and let's cd into, so it'll be cd space etc or etc systemd system. And now if we ls this, we see here we have our CYA.service and our CYA.service, CYA.timer file, excuse me. And if we take a look at those files, you need to make sure that this is the permissions that are set, which should be because it's copying them in there. Okay, so now all we have to do is just turn this on. So you do that by doing sudo space system control or systemctl, then do enable, then space, and then CYA.timer, because timer is going to be called, which will call the system or service file, excuse me. So timer is actually what's controlling when this runs, and then it will use the service unit file to actually issue the command. Hit enter. You see here it creates the link. Now finally, let's do sudo space system controller systemctl is the command. We will do start, and then we'll do CYA.timer. Oh, well, it helps if you spell it correctly, folks. So again, that sudo space system controller, as you saw there, left off the other S.
See, I'm not the only one.
I know, I do it too. Okay, so now that's enabled. So finally, let's take a look at the status of this. Let's do sudo space system control. Then we're going to do status CYA.timer, and you see here it's loaded. Now I still have every week in the description, so it's not. You could change that, but let's do CYA list, and here you'll see that. Well, hold on. I'm sorry, folks. Let me do a date so I know what it is. Okay, to get the time is 12:20. Well, I could have looked up there too, but doing this all from the terminal. So let's issue that. Let's issue CYA space list again. And here you can see it ran at 20:02. And we'll just wait just a moment. And well, it's already run at 21:40. No, that was the other. No, wait a minute. It's the 25th. Okay. So here it ran at 12:20 and 2 seconds. So now if I clear this and ls do CDA or CYA, sorry, CYA space list, You can see here now we have Wednesday. Well, it hasn't quite run yet because we haven't rolled over. I'm sorry, folks. I'm getting ahead of the system. Where's the system? Okay, so now we have 21, so it should run. Now, System D won't always run it on the nose. Sometimes it will be 2 or 3 or 10 seconds difference. So now we should have a different one. Well, whenever it decides to run, I know it will because I tested it before. It just doesn't always. I noticed System D can have a few seconds here. So is there anything you want to add, Joe? This will definitely catch up in just a moment.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that if, like I said, I created an Anacron wrapper if you're used to using Anacron. And so all you have to do is just change your user directory in there, and then it will do a save. The way I have it set up is to do weekly. But with Anacron, it all depends on what directory you put it into under Etsy. So if you want it to run daily, put it in cron.daily. If you want it to run in weekly, put it under cron.weekly or monthly, or you could have different options that you put in there and have it run in all of them. And the nice thing over Anacron over usually regular cron is that if you miss it for some reason, the computer is down, it'll catch up the next time. It'll go, oh, I was supposed to do that. Let me take care of that. So whereas with cron, if the system's not running, then it just doesn't do it and waits till the next time it's scheduled. So that's why I like to use Anacron, and it's in Ubuntu, and it's in Linux Mint, and it's in a lot of other systems. And I'm just really used to using Anacron instead of System D, so that's why I do it. I don't hate System D. I'm just lazy.
Yeah. So while we were talking, it went ahead and it ran this one, and it did. First of all, it did 3. Well, actually, it did 2. Then it did 3, and then you can see here we have 1221. And then in any moment, like I said, it's not on the nose, but it will suddenly, now it just did that. See, now we have 1222, whereas before here, this one we had 1219. Now we have 1219. Now we have 1222. And it's just going to keep going every moment. So that's all you do.
Yeah, I think
the only other thing, let me just say this and then closing, and then you can wrap it up, Joe.
Okay.
If you need to do multiples, because maybe you're someone that look, I want some saves, but I want some, say, CYA saves, but I want some CYA, say, keeps for monthly. You would just have to do this multiple times. So in your service file here, if I clear this, what you would need to do is maybe here you'd have CYA-say save.service and CYA-save.timer. Then you'd have, say, CYA-keep.service, right? Or whatever you want to call it. So if you want to, say, have it run a save and a keep and maybe an archive, you would need to create, in essence, 6 files. One for the save command, and they can't have the exact same name. Yes, I would keep the service and the timer files the same. The same with the if you were using the wrapper script, you would have, say, 3 wrapper scripts. You'd have, say, wrapper script, say, save, and then that would do your CYA save, and then you have a second one that would be, say, CYA keep, and then you have another one or a third one that would be CYA archive. So that's literally how you would do that. And you could even have other scripts that you're calling this in. And so that's pretty much, I know we went really long as usual. We're going to try and keep this short, but there's just a lot of information to pack.
Well, this is a big program. And I want to say before we wrap this up, thank you for watching this far. And I want to say this has taken a year of first conceptualizing and then actually sitting down and starting to bang this out and testing it over and over and over again. And the thing that blows my mind about this entire project is the fact that it's all done in Bash. It's all done with tools that are available on any Linux system. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This will work on anything. It should. And that I love working within that whole POSIX standard. If you can be inside that and make it the lowest common denominator, it's going to work on anything. That to me is that's the big battery charge out of this for me. Is not that we wrote a piece of software or Jeremy did 98% of the writing, but the point is that we did it in a way that's totally within the open architecture of Linux. It does not call on anything else. You don't have to install anything to make this work. You just have to install Linux. That's it.
Yeah, and a few requirements. The only thing is on the screen as Joe was talking, I totally agree, is there is a CYA_log file in the root file system when it does a restore that just repeats and just prints out what it did. So it just lets you know in case you forgot what happened.
Okay.
That's all I
All
have,
right.
Joe. I mean, there's more. I could go on for another hour or two, but I think
Oh well, yeah, we've gone on with
digest.
this. We've noodled this thing literally for a year, and so there's a lot that we could talk about. But I think that's enough for now. First of all, I want to say thank you for watching. I want to say thank you to Jeremy for taking the time out of his busy day to put this video together. This is really the record of, it's a document of what this is in great detail. And also, I want to say that this hopefully is just going to continue. We'll just keep working on stuff like this because this has proved to be a really good thing. Connect to SSH, which was the last time that we did something like this, has proved to be very popular with a lot of admins all over the place. So that is very cool. And I guess the only thing to say here is the link to the CYA page at CyberWeb Solutions, or the CyberWeb Solutions site, will be in the video. And while you're there, you can always click on home and you can check out what Jeremy does, because he's available for hire to write middleware to help you set up Linux systems in your business. Really advanced stuff. He does that. Usually I talk to people and I take care of people who are doing things at home. If you need it in a business area, then Jeremy's one of the people that can really set you up and get you going. And also, you want to check out EasyLinux.com on the web. Check out Easy Linux on Facebook. Check out FreedomPenguin.com too, because that is where a lot of great stories about Linux pop up. And that's about it. I'm done. Do you have any closing comments you want to say, Mr. O'Connell?
Well, I appreciate everyone for listening. And like we said, just issue any comments. We'll look over them. I will as well. I'll try and answer any questions I can. And if you have further ideas or whatever, we'll potentially do another video on this, because this is very important. This is the first system that we see that is just universal, works on any Linux, Unix, BSD, whatever, backs up any file system, and is really there. So look forward to seeing the comments, and thank you for listening. Throw it back over to you, Joe.
All right, guys, we're gone. Thank you so much. We'll do it again soon.